Can I make that full screen? Nope. All right, we're just gonna leave it like that. All right, so this is Anti-Surveillance 102 from the Citizens Privacy Coalition of Santa Clara County. If you want to follow along with these slides, feel free to do so. You can go to cpc.scc.org/102, and then that's going to redirect you to that exact same URL that you see there in my URL bar, right? So they're the exact same slides. It's literally what I am going through right now. So, and if you're watching this significantly after the fact that this was recorded, they may have changed a little bit. That link is meant to be the live link of as we go through updating all of our trainings, what can be used, right? So follow along there. All right, what is the CPC? We are a grassroots volunteer-run watchdog coalition that aims to combat the lack of oversight and awareness surrounding the state of government and corporate surveillance in the heart of Silicon Valley. That's like a word salad. Essentially, we're trying to raise awareness about the government overreach when it comes to surveillance. Surveillance historically has always disproportionately affected the community of color, and that, so we're looking here to fight racial injustice at the end of the day. We kind of have a three-pronged mission: investigate, legislate, and educate. So what we're doing right here falls under educate. We are in the middle of investigating the use of facial recognition surveillance in every single police department in Santa Clara County. So each city police department, as well as the county sheriff's office. And we are in the middle of that investigation, and we plan to present our findings, and we've already found some interesting things. The reason why we want to do this is because Black individuals are up to 100 times more likely to be misidentified by facial recognition surveillance. That is an insane, disproportionate amount. Cities such as San Francisco, Oakland, Alameda, Berkeley, Portland, a handful on the East Coast, they have actually outright banned the use of facial recognition by law enforcement in their cities. And we think we could do the same thing here in Santa Clara County. Portland actually did an amazing thing and took it one step further, and they actually banned the use of facial recognition technology by private entities, not just law enforcement. That's amazing. So anyway, I'm super excited about this. We have an information session coming up on October 27th at 5 p.m. And it's called Racism and Facial Recognition Surveillance. And it's we're going to be joined by speaker Sejwa Aribabor from Access Now, and she is extremely knowledgeable when it comes to facial recognition surveillance, its history, and its impact on underrepresented demographics, on the community of color, right, and on marginalized demographics. And so I'm very excited to have her come. You're going to be able to see it the exact same way you're watching this now. We're going to be doing it live, though. I'm not going to be pre-recording it, right? And we're going to be streaming it. And then in that exact same info session, I'm going to be presenting the results of our investigation into the into the use of facial recognition surveillance by law enforcement. So it's mostly going to be Sejwa talking, and then I'm going to take about 15 minutes at the end. So, all right, educate workshops like these. Like I said, we need volunteers. If you're interested, if you are very passionate about privacy or technology and the way that it affects our day-to-day lives, and especially how it affects marginalized groups, please go to cpcscc.org/contact and fill out the volunteer form there. If you're good at social media, I mean, I'm all right at social media. I don't have a ton of time to do it, and so I would love to have a social media person, but I'd love to have anybody help us, especially I can't cover every single city that is in the county, and talk to legislators and stuff like that. So we're gonna need a ton of help. Okay, one quick get out and vote. Voting is open here in California. I don't need to tell the people that are watching this how important it is to vote this election, so I'm not going to. Just reminder, get out and vote. Really quick too, I'm going to come out, we're going to post something to Instagram tomorrow explaining why we hold these positions, but we urge a no on Proposition 24, which is the one that expands the California Consumer Privacy Act. It doesn't, it takes some small steps forwards and some small steps backwards, and so we would rather just it not take place, that it would not happen, and that it be figured out more thoroughly in the future, right? And then we have a strong no on 25, which is the one that ends cash bail, but then also leaves a lot more discretion up to judges on certain sentencing and stuff. The reason why we are so strong against this, we are very, very for ending cash bail. But if you look closely at the proposition, it says that an algorithm will be developed to help the judges with sentencing, and that is an absolutely terrible idea. Just like facial recognition, that algorithm, I guarantee you, will disproportionately affect negatively already marginalized communities. So without further ado, this is what we're going to be learning about today. Password managers, two-factor authentication, who's watching me online, and how can I evade who's watching me online. Really quick, so this stuff, you'll notice this is Anti-Surveillance 102. We already did 101. If you missed it, you can go to cpcscc.org/101 and you can look at the stuff. There we talked about encryption. That's almost entirely what we talked about. We took about the last 5 to 10 minutes to talk about how to protect yourself when you're actually at a demonstration, an action, or a protest, right? But we talked about encrypting our communications last time. Go back and watch that. It was a lot of really great stuff. If you're already a privacy enthusiast and a technology person, a lot of this is probably going to be extremely basic. You're not necessarily the target audience here. The target audience is more for those people that don't really know where to start, right? So a lot of this is really low-hanging fruit, and I try and follow the 80-20 rule. Roughly 80% of surveillance can be avoided by taking 20% of precautions. Obviously, that's just a statistic. For illustration purposes, it's not a legitimate statistic. I don't have any data to back that up, but I'm sure you all are familiar with this saying, right? So with this analogy. So the things that we're going to go over here are going to make your life easier, more secure, and help you evade surveillance techniques from corporate entities, from law enforcement, right? We're going to get into it. So here we go. Password managers. If you follow us on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter, we did our Tip Tuesday last week. It's Cybersecurity Awareness Month. So we've been doing Tip Tuesday and Throwback Thursdays on all of our social media profiles, talking about the importance of cybersecurity and privacy and legislation, and giving you tips on how to make yourself more secure and more private online. And we did one about password managers last week. Password managers are so important. If you're not using one, you need to change that today, because they make your life easier and more secure. So just real quick, password manager is going to protect you from not necessarily like corporate and government surveillance, unless those corporate entities and those government entities are doing something extremely illegal and trying to actually break into your social media accounts using your password. And that's illegal in some cases. There are cases like at the border where you can actually maybe be compelled to give them your password, or they may be able to guess it and get away with it. And anyway, thing is, password managers are extremely important. They're a tool that produces randomly generated passwords and stores them securely, allowing you to have a different password for each login, right? This makes your life easier and more secure simultaneously. Well, how does it make your life more secure? Using the same password for every login is a really, really, really bad idea. Sites get hacked and passwords get leaked. If you're using the same password on Instagram that you use for your email or your banking, those logins are also compromised. And if you're like, wait, what passwords are leaked online, sites are hacked, passwords are leaked online, let's go to this site called haveibeenpwned.com. All right, so if you come here at haveibeenpwned.com and you type in your email address, I'm just going to do example@example.com. It's going to come back and tell you, oh no, you're pwned. Pwned is a stupid saying that we have in the cybersecurity community. It just means that you've been hacked. or your docs or something. Anyway, so example at example.com have been involved in all of these breaches. Like all of these sites right here were hacked. This Adobe one happened in 2013, and it was huge at the time. It was one of the biggest leaks, and their passwords were encrypted, but encrypted poorly, so people were actually able to reverse engineer the encryption and get people's passwords. And so, and some of these, the passwords are actually stored by the company in plain text. Meaning that they're not encrypted, anybody could read them. And then if they get your password and you're using that same password, so let's say that I was hacked on Adobe, I was using the exact same password for Adobe that I'm using for my bank account, shoot, like I'm out of luck, right? They're in my banking account too, they're in my email. The worst would be your email, excuse me, if they knew your email address, which they likely will, because it's probably tied to the Adobe account that was hacked, and they go in and boom, they're in your email, then they pretty much have control over any account that uses that exact same password, because they could just go through your inbox and see what services you use. How does this make my life easier? So it's impossible to remember a password for all the hundreds of logins that we have. A password manager, whoops, that's a typo on the slide. It says a password manager remembers them for you, right? So our brain is not, we cannot, like I have hundreds, maybe even thousands of websites of logins saved in my password manager. It's completely impossible for me to know the password for every single one of those, because they are unique, they are random, they're not any words, nothing like that. And another benefit is if like someone comes up to me and says, hey, I'm like in a situation where I'm being physically compelled to reveal my email account password, I literally don't know my email account password. Like if you were to ask me, I don't know it. So yeah, it makes your life more secure and easier because you don't have to remember all these passwords. A lot of people will like keep variations of the same password. That's not a good idea, because like they'll add like a 1 or a 2 or a 3 to the exact same thing, or they'll change it up depending on the day of the week that they signed up, or the name of the site or something like that. That's never a good idea. Those are very easily guessable. It's much better to have a long password. So we're gonna watch this. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna stop the share really quick because I think I forgot to share the audio. Let me do that just so that you guys can hear the audio. Share screen. Yep, it's a good thing I did that because I did not. Okay, so we're gonna watch this video really quick about password managers.
If you're watching this, there's a good chance you're using the same password over and over again. And I'm here to tell you that is not a good idea. Let me tell you what happened to me. A few years ago, Zappos emailed me out of nowhere and said that my password had shown up on a long list of hacked accounts. It wasn't that Zappos had been hacked. I didn't even know it had been hacked. But because I've used the same password again and again, my Zappos account was vulnerable. So was my Instagram account and my Facebook account, and so before you end up with your password exposed to the world thanks to yet another security breach, I'm going to show you how to start securing your accounts. The most important thing you can do is use different passwords for different services. That sounds really complicated and hard to remember, but it's not. What you need is an app called a password manager, something that can remember all of your usernames and passwords and automatically plug them straight into websites. They're really, really handy and pretty easy to use once they get set up. There are a bunch of options out there like 1Password and Dashlane, but for this video we're going to talk about LastPass because it's completely free and it works on basically every platform: Windows, Mac, iOS, Android, even Chrome OS, so you'll be able to use it no matter where you are. When you sign up, the first thing you'll be asked to do is create a master password. This is what you'll type to log into LastPass, and basically it's the only password you'll ever have to remember, so you better make it a good one. Now I know you're thinking probably a special character, a capital letter, a number, maybe make that O into a 0. No, forget all of that. What you want is something that's long but easy to remember. So instead of password, think passphrase, something like excitable lizard tomato paste machine. You're not going to forget that, but it's going to be really hard for a hacker who's guessing password after password after password to figure out. Okay, so what are the hackers actually doing here? We asked Russell Brandom, the Verge cybersecurity reporter, to find out.
So imagine a big breach like the one that hit Yahoo in 2013. Hackers got logins and hashed passwords for 1 billion accounts. Now that's a lot of people, and it's a huge problem for everyone, even outside of Yahoo. Suppose you've got a scam going and you need to hack a bunch of Facebook accounts. If you can buy unhashed Yahoo passwords on a criminal marketplace, you can use a tool like Sentry MBA to run all 1 billion of those passwords against Facebook and see which of them work. If you're lucky, you get 1 in 1,000. But for a breach as big as Yahoo, that's 1 million passwords. Of course, Facebook will get suspicious if one computer is putting in millions of passwords a second. So the programs get clever, using botnets to spread the logins out over millions of IP addresses, using different profiles and different browser fingerprints, so each one looks like a different user. It's an arms race between hackers trying to use the passwords and services trying to stop them, but at the end of the day, the ones that work are legitimate passwords. Services can only do so much to keep hackers out. And that's why you want to use different passwords with each account, because even if you end up in a big breach like Yahoo, your other accounts will still be safe.
Alright, so now you need to go about changing all of your passwords. LastPass can actually help you out a bit by automatically importing any passwords you already have saved to your browser. And it even has a button to automatically change some of those passwords. But it doesn't always work, and you're probably going to have to enter some of these manually, which can take a little bit of time. Say you're ready to secure your Facebook account. You'll find the change password screen, and then LastPass will have this little button appear in the corner of the box. You'll just click on that, and LastPass will be able to generate and fill in a big, long, complicated password for you. But that's okay, because you're never going to have to remember it. Once it's saved in LastPass, it'll be there forever. And that's it. Fortunately, you don't have to do this all at once. And honestly, I'd recommend waiting a few days before you add, your bank account or your email address, just to make sure you have the hang of it. Just so you know, it's going to be a little bit more work on mobile because you're going to have to copy your password out of the LastPass app and into whatever you're signing into, but it's worth the effort. Okay.
So what he said there at the end, that it's going to be a little bit more work for mobile because you have to copy and paste, isn't necessarily true anymore, at least on Android, right? And then also he talked about, I should have put a slide in here for this, I will for the next time. He talked about thinking about a passphrase rather than password, and the example that he gave was really good. And if you go to our Instagram Tip Tuesday from a week ago, we gave a really good example there too. But I actually like to write past sentences, like I write an entire sentence, and that way it's really easy for me to type, right? Like, my dog has 7 million fleas or something like that. I don't know. Just something random that doesn't make any sense, that's really long, and then throw like some punctuation in there. The example that he gave with like 7 random words is also a really good one. I don't personally use that one, but I know a lot of people do. It's just as effective. So what password manager should I use? So if you can't afford it, I highly, highly recommend using 1Password. Let's see, whoops. 1Password is just by far the most user-friendly password manager I've ever used. Dashlane, I've never used Dashlane, but I've heard great things. I used to use LastPass very heavily. They have a paid version. LastPass is great, especially if you can't spend any money. It gets you all the features that you need to keep you secure. Bitwarden is another really great free one. It's pretty new. I actually prefer it over LastPass, and I was using it for a little while until I was like, no, I'm just gonna pay for 1Password. And then KeePass is also another free one that's pretty good. The difference between KeePass and all of these is that they will store all your passwords in their cloud encrypted and everything so they can't be found out. KeePass, you keep the file that securely stores and encrypts all of your passwords on your own computer. So it's a little bit more work. Don't recommend it unless you feel confident in your technical abilities. All right, two-factor authentication. What is two-factor authentication, or 2FA? It requires you to enter a randomly generated PIN after successfully entering your password. The PIN changes every 30 seconds. Let's watch the rest of this video because he talks about it.
But there's one more step you can do to make your accounts even safer. It's called two-step authorization, and you should set that up too. Usually what this means is that when you go to log into a website, the website will text a short code to your phone, and you'll have to enter that code as well as your password to get logged in. The idea is that even if a hacker has your password, they'll also need to steal your phone in order to break into your account, which is going to be a lot more work. Yes, this will make logging in take a few seconds longer, but it's much more secure, and you'll feel a little bit like a secret agent every time you get a special code sent to you. At least that's how I feel.
So yeah, that was essentially, the way he had it set up is it would send him a text message with the PIN, and then he'd enter the PIN. If you can help it, do not use text messages for 2FA. Don't do it unless it is the last resort. It's whoa, skipped one. There we go. If that's the only option that the account offers, the company that makes the account offers, it's better than nothing. Okay. But I would highly recommend using an app. There we go. What 2FA app should I use? If you do the paid version of LastPass, or you go with 1Password, I highly recommend doing it there, because they will actually autofill the PIN for you rather than you having to copy and paste it. But if you can't, oh my goodness, I forgot my favorite free two-factor authentication app in here. A really good free one is Duo Security Google Authenticator. There are tons more options. My favorite one that I'm like embarrassed that I forgot to put is called Authy, AUTHY. Recommend that one. Last resort text message. So like he said, the idea is that if a hacker does successfully get your password, they still have to have that code to log in, right? So, and that changes every 30 seconds, so they're not going to get in. All right. Why does it keep doing that? Oh, I know why it keeps doing that. Okay. Password managers and 2FA are not bulletproof. Like, they won't protect you from physical attacks, for instance, or sophisticated attackers. For example, if y'all have ever heard of Silk Road, like the online drug marketplace, not the historical landmark, or I don't even, anyway, Silk Road was on the dark web, and it was a place for people to sell drugs and anything, right? That it was a black market essentially. And I highly recommend of the book. I forgot the name of the book. There's a book called about Silk Road and the guy who made it, and how he got caught. And what happened was, because he was using random passwords and taking all the precautions he could, law enforcement couldn't get into any of his accounts and couldn't log into the Silk Road backend and stuff like that. And so what they actually did was they cornered him physically in a library, distracted him while his laptop was unlocked. They distracted him, so he turned around, and then as he turned around, they grabbed his laptop while it was unlocked. So obviously a password manager and two-factor authentication isn't going to protect you against anything like that, but it's good. It's like the 80-20 rule. It's something super easy to do, makes your life so much easier, and like an attacker that's trying to get into spraying, right, and just trying to get into as many accounts as they can. They just got a bunch of passwords. They're trying to log into it. They're just going to pass you right up because your account's too hard to get into. All right, so let's get into the actual surveillance portion, more explicit surveillance portion. Who is watching me online? This is pretty heavy here because advertisers are, government is, internet service providers, hosting providers, the people that actually host the servers, that own the servers of the sites that you're visiting. Every website you visit, you are being tracked. Okay, I should put nearly every website you visit, because, for instance, if you go to our website, cpcscc.org, you will see that you are not getting tracked at all. It's true that we can't really do a lot of analytics or anything into that, into our site because of that, but we'd rather protect your privacy. Plus, we don't really care who's coming to our site or how many people are coming. We just care about seeing effects in the real world. We're going to watch this video to understand digital tracking a little bit better here.
Suppose you're shopping online for shoes. Then you decide to check a health site and you see an ad for shoes. You switch over to YouTube to watch a hilarious kitten video, but first you have to watch a shoe ad. Later, you open the Facebook app on your phone And guess what? Sponsored post about a shoe sale. How do all of these sites know that you're shopping for shoes? Well, websites use various methods to track your browsing habits. Each site may only gather a little bit of information, but together, it forms a sort of digital profile that advertisers can use to learn all kinds of things about you. An advertiser can plant a small file on your computer called a tracking cookie, which they can use to identify you the next time you visit one of the sites they advertise on. They can also get a pretty good idea of which devices you use based on your social media and email accounts, or by using a technique called probabilistic matching, which makes educated guesses about which devices belong to the same person. So one way or another, all of your devices are connected to you, and that means companies can send you targeted ads no matter which device you're using. This does raise some privacy concerns since the information is collected without your knowledge, and there is a fear of how this information could possibly be used. For instance, could an insurance company deny coverage based on a person's browsing history? You can take steps to limit the amount of data collected, such as blocking tracking cookies in your browser settings, but with the current sophistication of tracking, they're pretty easy to get around. However, there are potential upsides to all this data being collected. It allows sites to recommend articles and videos based on your interests and help search engines more quickly find the results you're looking for. As the technology continues to advance, sites will find new ways to tailor their content to better meet your needs. It's hard to say exactly where this will lead, but for better or worse, digital tracking is part of the modern online reality.
All right. So y'all have seen, everyone has seen that, right? Where you like look at something on Amazon or another site and you decide you don't really want it, but then you see it on Facebook or you see it on Instagram or you see it advertised like everywhere else that you're on the internet that day. And that's because they know that it's you. They're using those tracking pixels, those tracking ads to know what sites you're going to, right? And you may think, okay, what's the big deal? They know that I'm reading this article and they know that I looked at that, right? Well, they can get a really good picture of what's going on, and that can get pretty invasive. There's a really famous story this happened like 10 years ago. A woman was pregnant. She was still living with her parents. She didn't want her parents to know that she was pregnant. She was looking at pregnancy stuff on Target.com. Target put 2 and 2 together, and they actually sent her advertising for something for pregnancy in the mail, and it went to her parents' house, and then her parents found out that she was pregnant, right? That was 10 years ago, and that was a pretty simple deduction that Target was able to do back then. Imagine what they can do now with the advances in technology. So, and then not only that, with all of this data that they have on you, right? Facebook literally knows like almost every single site you're going to. Google knows, right? If you're not taking these precautions that we're gonna walk through today, and we don't know the state of this anymore. But in 2013, Edward Snowden revealed that a lot of these companies like Google and Microsoft and Yahoo and all them, they were essentially handing over any user data that they had over to the NSA. That's called the PRISM program. Go and check it out. It's unclear, like I said, where that stands today. But the thing is, if a data company has it, like if Google has it, if Facebook has it, if they know where you're going all online, that can be subpoenaed by law enforcement. Right? Any data that any company, that anybody has on you can be subpoenaed by law enforcement, right? And this is particularly important for activists while you're protesting, while you're demonstrating, because most of the time, especially here in Santa Clara County, a lot of the activism that's been happening has been stuff like defund the police and whatnot, going against the government. So you don't want the people that you're protesting against to be able to get the data on you, right? Excuse me. And we all know that yeah, there's all these legal loopholes that they have to jump through to get a warrant and stuff like that. But if you want an example of where a warrant wasn't necessarily valid, or where a cop lied to get a warrant that he needed, just look at the Breonna Taylor case, right? So, so we need to protect ourselves. So if that's enough to convince you to take these precautions, then let's move on here. So, to get an idea of what is looking at who's tracking you, I went to CNN.com. I picked it mostly because I knew it was going to have a shit ton of trackers. I typically don't go to CNN.com, but I know a lot of stories are shared there and whatnot. But they have 35 ad trackers, and those, the Segment.io, Facebook Incorporated, Outbrain, Media Math, Alphabet Incorporated, that's Google, Adobe Incorporated, IOTA Limited, Double Verify, Bambora, Sovereign. All of these companies are looking at you when you're looking at CNN.com, right? On top of that, you have these ones. So these ones are tracking, these ad trackers are looking. They know that your IP address and your browser, and they looked at their ad on that page on CNN.com at this time. These third-party trackers are even more scary, and you can see there were 53 of them. These are the ones that can tell, for instance, Adobe's right down there on the second to last line, and Alphabet Incorporated. Adobe has a service in which they plant, that companies hire them and they plant tracking pixels on every single site, and they have some of the biggest companies as their customers, right? And Adobe can see every single page you're hitting where they have a tracking pixel, right? And it's in, a lot of people don't know this about Adobe. It's literally impossible to browse the internet without hitting Adobe infrastructure, because their marketing, their digital marketing and analytics footprint is so large, right? A lot of people don't know that. A lot of people are like, wait, I just use Adobe for Photoshop or Lightroom or PDFs or whatever, right? They're also tracking you, right? So, and again, that data can be subpoenaed by law enforcement, right? So, so there's that. A useful tool, it's called Blacklight by the Markup. You can go to the markup.org/blacklight. These are screenshots from Blacklight. If you are curious about a website, on what trackers what's tracking you when you go to a website before you go to it, if you want to, or if you're just like, wow, this has a shit ton of trackers, what's going on? You can go see exactly. It's a fun tool to play with. So today I listed a lot of people that are very interested in knowing what you're doing. Today, we're going to concentrate on advertisers and internet service providers. The methods discussed today will help with others because, like I said, especially with the government, because if a data company doesn't have stuff on you, then the government can't get it from them for you. But we're going to dive into more advanced techniques in the workshop, right? Okay, so how can I evade who's watching me online? Advertisers. The most effective thing you can do against advertisers is use Firefox and install Privacy Badger. Firefox, I'm sure you all know, but it is a internet browser. It's actually the internet browser that I'm using right now to do this, to show you this presentation. It's made by a nonprofit organization called Mozilla that has been around for a long time, and we owe Mozilla a lot for helping make the internet a safe and private place. They definitely have privacy at the forefront of all of their product designs, right? Unfortunately, Mozilla is actually going through a hard time, and they may not be around for very much longer. So use Firefox, and hopefully we can keep them around for a while longer, if not forever longer, right? Use Firefox and install Privacy Badger. Here's why we need to install Firefox. So if you look here, excuse me, it's got all the other major browsers. You got Chrome, which is like probably the most popular browser, and then Microsoft Edge, which I literally have never used, but I don't use it because it's crappy. Safari, which is also super common, especially in iOS, right? Opera, Brave, and Internet Explorer. Okay, and so you look at that and you're like, okay, Firefox and Edge and Brave, they all check boxes right here. Okay, you're right. There's private browsing mode. All of them have private browsing mode. Blocks third-party tracking cookies by default. Blocks crypto mining scripts. I don't really care about that. Blocks social trackers. Firefox, excuse me. If you want to use Edge and Brave because it checks all those boxes, go ahead. But Firefox, we're going to go into a little bit more. Where there's some, Firefox does a whole lot more to help keep you private. And we're going to go over a little bit today. We're going to go over a lot more in the next workshop. I don't know when that is. But they do a good job. For instance, they have an extension that is called Facebook Container, and just a really high-level overview. Essentially, it just keeps your Facebook activity in Facebook. It doesn't allow Facebook to track you across all these different sites and stuff. And that's just one example of what they have. So, Privacy Badger. So Privacy Badger is a browser add-on. It's developed by the Electronic Frontier Foundation, or the EFF. You're going to hear me say that I mentioned the EFF a lot in my last workshop. I'm going to mention them a lot this time. I'm a huge fan of the EFF for what they do for privacy online. And they are the developers of Privacy Badgers. It stops advertisers and other third-party trackers from secretly tracking where you go and what pages you look at on the web. If an advertiser seems to be tracking you across multiple websites without your permission, Privacy Badger will automatically block that advertiser from loading any more content in your browser. To the advertiser, it looks like you suddenly disappeared. Download it at privacybadger.org and download Firefox at firefox.com. So, Privacy Badger. Here's a screenshot. I went to CNN.com, and you'll see all of those trackers that it's blocking right there. Those are the ad trackers. You'll notice there were how many? Let's see. I didn't double check this before. There were 35. Okay, ad trackers on the site, and Privacy Badger got 32 of them, and it, excuse me, for whatever reason, it determined that those 3 weren't tracking or whatever. The tool that said 35 and the Privacy Badger, they might be using slightly different technologies to detect tracking. But remember, we had 53 third-party trackers on CNN.com. Privacy Badger, depending on your settings, just blocks those outright 100%, right? So you'll see here, this is just the first section of my privacy browser, my Privacy Badger settings. Check if third-party domains comply with, this isn't what I want to show you. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but anyway, by default, Privacy Badger blocks third-party cookies, third-party trackers. I'm probably going to use those things interchangeably. Third-party cookies, third-party trackers. A cookie, you'll see that Privacy Badger actually uses a cookie icon. It's like when you log in. What a cookie is when you log into a website. Like if you log into your email provider is going to drop what's called a cookie into your browser, so that when you close the window, when you fire your browser back up, it'll see that you have that cookie and be like, oh, okay, that's this person, and then keep you logged in so you don't have to log in again. Third-party cookies are cookies that are planted by parties other than the site that you visited, so that they could then track you across. That's what Adobe's planting, is those third-party cookies. So third-party cookies, third-party trackers, essentially interchangeable. Okay, so this is a really cool benefit that I'm going to go over that is actually, we are lucky as residents of California that we can take advantage of this. As of right now, residents of California and the European Union, because of privacy laws in those regions, are the only ones in the world that can legally take advantage of this. You'll see that second one, send websites the global privacy control and do not track signals. Excuse me. What is do not track? For those of you following along this, if you hover over this image, will take you to the link where I got this. This is from the EFF's website about do not track. It's a way to keep users' online behavior from being followed across the internet by behavioral advertisers. Essentially what it was when you would send a request to a website and say, hey, I want this, but hey, don't track me. The website it was a standard that was trying to be implemented, and you could tell them to track me, to not track me, they were not track you, and then the website could choose whether or not they actually did, right? Like there's actually no legal enforcement that they have to do, right? But that changed with the California Consumer Privacy Act and the General Data Protection Regulation in the EU. And so what is global privacy control? This actually launched like last week, and I'm super stoked about it. So residents to California and residents in the EU, they can tell, have you noticed that whenever you visit a website now, it's asking you, like, do you want to sell do not sell my data, or object to processing my data, or all these cookie pop-ups and stuff like that. That is because of the CCPA, the California Consumer Privacy Act. California Consumer Privacy Act, like I said at the beginning, it's pretty good. It lost a lot of its teeth through all the debating and everything. And Proposition 24 kind of did the same thing. That's why I'm not a huge fan of it. But anyway, the greatest thing about the California Consumer Privacy Act is that you can tell companies to not sell your data to other parties for certain reasons, and they have to comply. And what global privacy control is companies like Mozilla, the EFF, DuckDuckGo, and Brave, and all these other companies that build internet tools got together and said, hey, let's put together this protocol that's better than do not track, that essentially, rather than every single person having to go and click a button that says, don't sell my data, it just tells the browser right away, it tells that site right away, this person doesn't want you to sell their data at all, ever. And it tells that to every single site. And Privacy Badger does that if you have that option checked. So install Privacy Badger, install Firefox, and it will tell every single site to not sell your data and not share it with other third parties, right? Now, again, because of the law of the CCPA, there are some ways around this. It's not bulletproof. We got to try and make it better. Proposition 24 isn't the way to make it better, though. So, okay, awesome. Everyone's like, cool, I never use a computer. I only use my phone. How do I do this on my phone? Install DuckDuckGo Privacy Browser. There's a link for it to get it on your iPhone or your Android. Or if you just go to the App Store or Google Play Store and search DuckDuckGo Privacy Browser, it does all of those things that Firefox and Privacy Browser does. They just don't have a desktop application. DuckDuck Privacy Browser blocks all ad trackers, social trackers, and third-party cookies. It also leverages global privacy control. Make it the default browser on your phone today. It's awesome. It also makes it super easy to erase all of your browser history and stuff. I love it. I've been using it as exclusively for my browser on my phone for years. Reminder, you should also be using DuckDuckGo as your default search engine as well. Stop using Google. Just go to duckduckgo.com. You could go to in your Firefox settings or whatever browser you choose to use, but you should really be using Firefox. You can go to your settings and make DuckDuckGo your private search engine, and we'll start using that. All right, so we got about 10-ish minutes left. I'm going kind of fast here because I went pretty long the last time, and I don't want to do that this time. And again, I know a lot of this stuff is super basic for a lot of you. In the next workshop in 201, we're going to dive into a lot more advanced stuff, stuff that's going to, I mean, it's kind of, like I said, it's the 80-20 rule. We're going to dive into more of the 20%. All right. How can I evade who's watching me online? Internet service providers. So your internet service provider, like Comcast, Verizon, I think Comcast is the most widely used one here in Santa Clara County. But I haven't seen any data or whatnot about that. Anyway, it is whoever gives you your internet. It's whoever you are paying your internet bill to. They can see all the traffic that's leaving your house right? They can see the destination of all your internet requests. And every single show on Netflix that you're watching, they see that you went to that URL to get that video file and it's going down to your TV. They can't, every single Bumble profile that you swiped right on, right? Well, it depends on how Bumble has their, they can definitely see that you're using Bumble, right? So anyway, and legally they can sell that to advertisers. This happened in, I believe 2017 or maybe 2018 that it was legally determined in the House of Representatives and the Senate that they can sell that data to advertisers, which is a real bummer. Especially if we're going through all this work to use DuckDuckGo and Privacy Badger and Firefox to evade all of that. So how can I evade my ISP, Virtual Private Network, VPN? So this is kind of a little bit murky territory that I'm going to get into. But first of all, let's learn what a VPN is. And when I say murky, I say murky because a lot of people have a lot of opinions about this, and I'm probably going to get shit from some people for my opinions because they don't agree with them. It's not murky in the sense that it's shady. It's not shady in the least bit. There are perfectly legitimate reasons to use a VPN, and that's why we're going to go through it. So what is a VPN? Okay, again, this image is a link to the source of to a really good overview of exactly what a VPN is. But here on the left side, you got your home router and your laptop and your tablet and your phone or whatever you're using, and then this is a weird. They put a hacker in the middle here, and maybe there's an attacker in the middle and tapping your line and seeing what's going over the wire and whatnot, or more. But I mean, your ISP doesn't have to tap the line because they own the line, right? So they can see everything and then they can sell it. And then then on the right side you got the server that hosts the website that you're going to. A VPN makes it, what it does is it encrypts your traffic so that your ISP actually can't see it. All your ISP sees is a shit ton of data going out, leaving a shit ton of encrypted data, leaving your house to your VPN provider's servers, right? And then your VPN provider can then see where you're going and stuff. But if you choose a really good VPN provider, they're not going to log where you're going. So if that's subpoenaed, they can't subpoena it. They can't sell it to advertisers, stuff like that, right? So I am constantly using a VPN on my phone and on my personal computer. What VPN should I use? So this is where it's going to get into murky territory because people are super opinionated about it. And there are so many VPNs out there, and a lot of them are very devious and some are honest. I'm going to make, a lot of privacy advocates won't make recommendations. I'm going to make a recommendation right now. The only two that have been proven trustworthy in my mind are Private Internet Access. That's the one that I personally use, and Proton VPN. I use Proton VPN for some things. If you go back to our 101 workshop, I talked about Proton Mail, and it's a Swiss it's a Swiss company that provides encrypted email. Proton VPN is from the exact same company, and both of these companies are very trustworthy. They don't log. Proton VPN it does log some stuff, but not super important stuff. Private Internet Access, no log policy, where that has actually been tested in court several times, right? Where they've been subpoenaed and they're like, look, I can't do it. I can't give it to you because we don't have it, because we don't log it, right? That's extremely important. So the only shitty thing about VPNs is that there are very few good free VPNs. Oh, really quick, let me backtrack a second. If you're going to go with any other VPN service than any of these two, I can't vouch for it. Like NordVPN has gotten caught doing some really shady stuff. ExpressVPN, I've heard some good things about, but I've never actually used it myself. These are the only two that I feel comfortable recommending, right? So Proton VPN actually does have a free solution, a free tier. I'm not sure how good it is. Private Internet Access is actually relatively cheap and affordable, right? And I think they have deals going on all the time, especially like Black Friday and shit like that. So yeah, it's privateinternetaccess.com and protonvpn.com. Go check it out. Next level around rather than VPN, or if you really want to be sure that nobody's looking at what you're doing and they can't identify you, use Tor, right? Tor is a hidden network on the internet, and you need to use a special browser to connect to it called the Tor browser. We talked a little bit about this in 101. Go back to 101. We're going to talk a lot more about it in the 200 series in the next workshops. I love Tor, use it all the time. We're going to talk a lot more about it. Like I said, in the next workshop, Anti-Surveillance 201, we'll go over more advanced techniques. Thank you so much. Be sure to, oh man, my icons aren't showing up. There used to be icons there. That the first one is our Instagram handle, and the other ones are our Facebook and Twitter handles. Please follow us. And don't forget, October 27th at 5 p.m., we're having that information session about racism in facial recognition surveillance. Super excited about it. It's very important, and I'm very excited to go over I'm very excited for Sedgwa to join us and to also go over the findings of our investigation. So thank you everyone for joining. If you haven't, again, I'm sorry that I had to pre-record this. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. If you're not comfortable doing that, you can DM us on Twitter, Facebook, or Insta, and we'll get you taken care of. So thank you so much.